that I was being viewed as like making this up. And so I was actually forced out of my, they forced me onto medical leave earlier than I had planned. I expected that I'd be great after 6 weeks. Well, no, after six, I mean, I woke up and I didn't have hearing in one ear, and it seemed like the pain was gone, but I couldn't swallow still because I was numb the entire way from my right side, and I still am. Our culture has such a weird relationship with food and body. So you're going back into a world that just is already so disordered, and there's so much pressure on people and to eat a certain way, look a certain way. There's so much stigma around weight and bodies, and
Do you ever have like a food where someone enjoy but you just really hate? Not because it gives you pain or anything, but you just don't like the taste of it and you're like, oh, I gotta do my job here, eat this thing. Do you ever have those situations before?
I'll push them aside. But honestly, like I will also, if someone says you have to take a bite, like I'm not gonna lose my shit if I take a bite. Like I will take a bite, I will eat it, but I can also very clearly say like I don't like it. And I can't. And she's like, you are drawing more attention to yourself by what you're doing than putting the whole thing in your mouth. She's like, come on, you can do it, Tessa. You just gotta like open, like roar, like Tony the Tiger.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but somehow that just made sense. And so I went and I grabbed my chopsticks and I went to grab the sushi. And I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then someone's like, okay, oh my gosh, she's gonna do it. Someone grabbed their phone. I was like, we're gonna get it on camera. And I was like, oh my God. And so as I'm doing it, they get their camera. And then like my therapist was like, I'll join you. So she grabs her sushi on her chopsticks and comes in next to me. And so there's the two of us with like our sushi just about to enter our mouth. And it was the first time I'd ever taken that big a bite. And it felt like it felt good to be doing well. I mean, I think the hard part was then at some point, as you're the client that's doing well, that gets scary because then at some point when you're having a hard time, is there space for that too? Like, so you're not on a pedestal. Like, can you struggle and still be doing well?
I'm gonna get into a controversial opinion here and then you can kind of give me your thoughts. So right now we're going through the fat acceptance movement and I feel like to
Mm-hmm.
me it causing more harm to the person. My theory is that it's easier to accept that they're fat and move the goalposts instead of working on ways to be in a healthy range. What are your thoughts on it?
Just because there's a correlation doesn't mean it's causation. And our fear of fatness is so great in this country, we will look for anything to link them.
Hello, welcome to my podcast, Two Mics, One Joe Suits. I am Joe Suits. I'll be giving a mic to Tessa. Tessa, the licensed therapist, or according to your website, therapist, and body image, eating disorders, and invisible diseases. It's a pleasure to have you today.
Hi, nice to be here.
We are going to start with you, then work our way into the therapy aspect since your beginning is crucial to your entire career. I have here in July 2017, you were experiencing excruciating electric shock pain. 2 years later, after countless room visits and doctor appointments, you were diagnosed with glass glossopharyngeal neuralgia. You're
Yeah,
unable to eat basically. The only way to be cured is surgery on your four cranial nerves, but also has three other cranial nerves that are being compressed, so you wouldn't be needing surgery on all four cranial nerves. After the surgery, you had a really tough experience. Can you explain more on that?
so in 2017, I'd been out of grad school and I was starting my, what we call associateship. So you have to accrue 3,000 hours before you become licensed. And I knew I wanted to specialize in eating disorders. And so I was working in an eating disorder program where a big part of working with that population is being able to not only like obviously talk as a therapist, but also be able to eat with the clients because you want to show like a normalized and balanced relationship with food and your body. So when these electric shocks and what felt like someone was like burning me inside my face were starting, it was really making it very challenging to talk, and I was trying to modify how I moved my mouth, and but I was also unable to swallow And so my intake was decreasing and decreasing. Like you said, you jumped ahead and, eventually we got a diagnosis, but leading all the way up until that diagnosis, the eating disorder population is as accepting as they are. They're also very skeptical, I think, of people who are requesting any sort of modifications or, have ailments or health problems. Or so when I was requesting that I could still be like a therapist, but I needed to maybe not eat with the clients, especially like coming back from, so this is even before the surgery, could I still like do the therapy, but I didn't want to have to eat a modified diet, like only at that point, like only liquids or hot beverages. That wasn't acceptable. And the feeling I was getting very strongly was that I was not being believed about this condition I had, even though I had a diagnosis and we had a surgery date, that I was being viewed as like making this up. And so I was actually forced out of my, they forced me onto medical leave earlier than I had planned. So I was on medical leave much earlier than the surgery. And then so I had the surgery, and I don't know if anyone here has ever had surgery. Surgeons are very vague about what they predict your like
Yeah.
post healing will be. So, it was like, oh, it could be 6 weeks, you'll be better. We don't really know. We don't know what the outcome will be. I expected that I'd be great after 6 weeks. Well, no, after I woke up and I didn't have hearing in one ear, and it seemed like the pain was gone, but I couldn't swallow still because I was numb the entire way from my right side, and I still am. I guess the lower right quadrant of my jaw,
Mm-hmm.
tongue all the way down into my throat. So I woke up on a feeding tube and had to be a soft diet for months afterwards. Again, I went back to my company and was asking, could I, when I can I come back? Can I work with clients in a different capacity, right? Could I just be a therapist? But again, could I be not on the meals? Could I do some other form of work with the company? Asking for accommodations, based on a disability. And my company was saying no, no.
Wait, what? I'm just a little confused. What accommodation did you need? Like, is that you didn't want to be seen, or like you were too ill to take so many
They
clients?
were
Like,
they were requiring that I eat with the clients, meals with the clients.
wait, that's a thing?
At the job I had, the clients are there. It's called partial hospitalization, PHP. So we do sessions with the clients, groups, and clients are also there for lunch, dinner, and snack. On a weekly rotation, therapists are scheduled periodically on the meals, but not every meal. Like, so there would be meals where I wouldn't be scheduled. And so I was requesting that I just not get scheduled for those meals. And they were saying no.
Whether it's just that you could do the meal, you could go to the meal, but just not eat, and just be
That
there
wasn't
for.
allowed.
That's so strange, though. That's so discriminatory that you're not even trained.
Yeah.
Like, for one, I never heard of this talking and eating. Is it an actual therapy session, or is it more of a like get together? Like, I never heard of this eating and therapy before.
So I
Is
understood.
this new or something?
Well, this is because I specialize in eating disorders. So I
Okay.
understood. So part of the treatment, this is like outside of like outpatient when people go to a higher level of care. Clients are there for groups. So they'll do like a process group, a trauma group, a family group. They'll have their individual therapy with me. And then also where they have meal sessions. So you're there for meal support. So they all gather and have lunch together and they have dinner together, and then therapists and dietitians are there eating with them, and so we're helping support through the meals. Part of that is also the staff, the therapists and dietitians, when they eat with the client, when the clients are eating, they're eating too, and they're eating. Philosophy is they eat the same thing in a normalized way. So you don't want to be like demonstrating disordered or diet behavior. I was advocating that this isn't disordered behavior. I have a medical condition, a
Yeah.
disability that's requiring an accommodation, and the clients knew this. Like people knew I had this, that I was going to have surgery, and they also knew I had brain surgery. So this also felt very much like real life. Like you're going to be out in real life, and these circumstances will happen. You'll meet people with different dietary needs and different challenges. And anyway, so it like you said, it felt very discriminatory, and I was put into a position where I was not able to then return to my old job. And again,
Well,
it felt like, even though I'd had this procedure, it just felt like I still wasn't being believed.
well, and I have like a lot of questions, so I'm not too. I mean, I'm familiar with eating disorders, but this kind of therapy of eating with the therapist and dietitian, is it beneficial to the person with the eating disorder? I feel like an important aspect to their recovery.
It is. And so I that's also why for me, and I'm someone who had an eating disorder, a bad one. It took me a while to recover. I really respect that part of the treatment, and it was really beneficial for me, like having a therapist eat with me. You know, I can still think of in treatment at programs and also in outpatient. My therapist would, you know, sit and get sushi, and I was afraid to put a whole piece of sushi in my mouth, and we made it a game and we took photos together, and like that became a whole part of my story, like a turning point that we were doing this together and bonding over it. And they helped me normalize like eating at a regular pace when I was so afraid to even be seen putting food in my mouth at that stage in my life. So I didn't want to cause, that's why I was like, I get that. I know from a lived experience place how important that is. That's why I was saying, just have me then not be a part of the meal. You know, I can still be leading groups, I can still do the individual therapy that I've always been doing, but until I can eat with them, if I can again, like I don't want to have to be explaining this piece. Just take me off these meals that at this stage of their recovery are so important.
I mean, I get where you're coming from, but I also would like, if I'm being your client, I would want you to be there so you can like see me progressing or not. Because I feel like, everyone always goes like, "Oh, I'm doing the exercises and I'm trying these things," but then when you're in that situation, and they could like hide and stuff, they could be lying to you. But when you're there, you can actually see it. But don't you see it kind of like you want to be there for the client, but you can't do all the steps because you just said that like it's really beneficial. I kind of did in my like me growing up is that I would be more comfortable eating with others, and I feel some would be more comfortable eating with you versus just strangers.
Well, yes, I guess I'm not explaining it very well. It's not strangers. Like, if you have a bunch of therapists and staff that are all there in the treatment program, and I'm worried we're getting a little bit off track, but like it's, so maybe in a week I might have gotten usually assigned one meal to eat with clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you might not even be eating with your actual client, you're meeting with other clients in the program.
No, I get what you're saying. It seems like I would want to eat with you just because, kind of like me and you problem. Like we try to work it out. 'Kay, I think like a bit eating disorder is that if you're surrounded by other people that kind of don't know you in a while, like you don't want to like you like go back to your old ways in a way, like, baby steps in a way. That's what I'm trying to come.
Right, but I guess what I'm saying is in a program, they are all eating together.
Hmm.
Like, you wouldn't always be eating with you aren't always eating with your therapist.
But so is this kind of like a group activity that everyone would know each other? Because when I did go think of therapy, I
Yes.
always go like, "Oh, I'm just gonna go see you," and then walk out the door and then never, live my life. So it's like a,
No,
so it's like a
it's
weekly.
different than that. This is like a treatment program.
So this is something like you have to like be in. So this is not like a 1 day thing. That is kind of like you have to go like several times a week to get over the
Yeah,
eating
people would
disorder.
be there 6 days a week. Yeah, people were there 6 days a week, about like 8 hours a day. And so
Whoa,
they'd be there with other people.
whoa. Yeah, yeah. I think that's where my misunderstanding is that I didn't realize how intense it is. Like
Yeah,
it.
so that's what we call like PHP. So they're there. So they're there with groups. So I might have like individual clients that I would meet for individual sessions, but I'm also, when you're working in a treatment program, so I'm there like 9 hours a day working, running groups, individual sessions, and the clients are there 9 hours a day. They show up at 11, they leave at 7, Monday
Whoa.
through Friday, and then they come on Saturday. And
So
so
it.
they are all there together.
So I'm guessing a group. therapy session ish it works best. I'm just so what do you do all day with them? Is it like t- so eating is one aspect. So is it the rest of your talking or the like activities or like I'm really curious about all of this because much more intense than I thought it'd be.
Yeah, they usually come in and we start with like a group session. So we, if it was like adolescents and adults, we split them up, and so we might do a like a process group, which is just like talking about what's going on. So that'd be like one therapist with, you know, anywhere from like 10 to 15 clients in a group. Then we'd go and do like the meal session. And then we might have a like a yoga session, which I used to lead, like a yoga or mindful movement a group activity. Then we'd have maybe art therapy, trauma group, like a DBT group, dialectical behavioral therapy. We might do I think of all the different groups. So some are like more like psychoeducation, some are more process, food and feelings, nutritional education groups,
Do you have to
family.
do you have to like divide the eating disorder because there are so many that do you have to like divide them or can you kind of just group them together?
The different types of eating disorders.
Well, like I would say bulimia and anemic. Like, can you to put them together? So like one, I don't know. I'm like curious about all of this because I never heard of this group
We
therapy. I guess I mean
Yeah,
you're
we
the
keep
expert. So I'm guessing it's the best way to do it as a group, so everyone can like support each other.
group therapy and treatment programs. I mean, so we have there's multiple levels of care, right? So what I'm describing right now is what we call PHP, or partial hospitalization, which would be sometimes also called day treatment. So the idea is you ultimately still get to go home at the end of the day, but it's gives you usually about two meals support. So you have usually like your lunch, your dinner, and a snack, and about, you know, 3 to 4 groups in the day. Plus, you'll usually have individual therapy sessions there, plus like individual dietary sessions. And we bring in like family as well, come in for support.
Yeah, how long is the program for?
Ideally, we like people there like 2 to 3 months. It all depends on insurance though. So,
Wow.
you know, that's the hope. And then unfortunately, like we're constantly fighting insurance, and insurance companies are always trying to push people out sooner than they need to be. So that's the battle. And then
Wow, that's really
we
intense
have,
though. It's 8 hours a day for 3 months.
yeah, but it helps. I mean, because these problems are gnarly. I mean, even at that level of care, we have many clients who need to step up to higher level of care, residential, where they go and live in a house. Then sometimes we also get to step people, hopefully the idea is we step people down to intensive outpatient IOP, which is usually within the same program, but you attend for like 3 to 4 hours a day, and that's usually includes one meal and like 2 groups. And that can be anywhere from 6 days a week to 3 days a week. You start titrating down, and then
So what
eventually you're just outpatient.
so what is the difference between someone that's minor and someone that's I guess that needs intense care? Like how can you diagnose that?
It's really how, so part of it is going to be like medical stability. So we're checking their labs, their vitals, how much they're able to like, how much the eating disorder is in like getting in the way of them living their life, right?
Mhm.
Are they still able to function? Can they attend school and a job? And also, not only just can they do it, are they able to do it and actually like thrive? Like,
Mhm.
can they be at school? Can they be at their job and, you know, have connections, have relationships? Or is it just sort of like causing, how much distress is it causing? And then we're also looking at, you know, like medical stability, right? Like what are their lab values? What are their, those different components? But we're really looking at like self report of like how much is this getting in the way of them living the life they want?
Mhm. No, it's a very like everyone think of therapy as a mental problem, but eating disorder kind is bigger because it's not mental but it's also physical too. It really affects them physically. Like I'm sure I'm walking among people that have eating disorder that will have never any idea about or they just hide it or whatever. So this
Yeah.
seems very intimidating to like everyone. biggest problem is accepting they have a problem, but therapy is really intense and they're really trying to really better them. And I get that 3 minute needed, that 3 month treatment needed to get them back to normal basis. Like that's intimidating. It's a lot of work
That's
too.
it's a lot of work. It's hard to step out of life for that. And I think the hardest part is, yeah, the hope is that gets them. Yeah, I think the hope is that gets them back to normal. But honestly, I mean, that is usually like the start of a long process. It takes people years to recover. Like that might be like the kickstart. People might have to do various rounds of treatment and therapy. Definitely following up with like like a good outpatient team. So continuing with a therapist outpatient and a dietitian. Because I think what's so hard about eating disorders is our culture has such a weird relationship with food and body. So you're going back into a world that just is already so disordered, and there's so much pressure on people and to eat a certain way, look a certain way. There's so much stigma around weight and bodies, and then when you have stressors in life, it can really quickly be a coping mechanism to slip back into. And there's a lot of unlearning to be doing too about, not moving back to the food when things get challenging.
All right, so this is your podcast. We're gonna go back to you. So we're in
Yeah.
a situation that we're in a situation that your company didn't want you anymore just because you weren't able to eat with other people due to your health. So are you saying that you had to quit or get fired, and then what happened after that?
Yeah, they basically just kept saying like stay on medical leave until you can return and eat and work full time or the amount you need to. And the challenge was is that like I wasn't healing. I wasn't quote unquote healing or getting back to what I thought I would, you know. So I thought I'd have the surgery, and after a few weeks I'd be healed. No, my surgeon reminded me that like when you have like glossopharyngeal neuralgia and facial pain, like the surgery was a treatment, but it's not a cure. So
Hmm.
like one of my nerves was like growing through an artery, right? So the Teflon sponge they put there, these things like definitely helped with the pain, but it's not going to take away the pain. We don't know that like the intense pain I had won't come back. And so it was kind of like a sit and wait for these first few months, like what's going to happen. And the numbness, he's like, we have to see what's going to happen. We just have to kind of wait and see how this is going to progress. And so if you've ever, had to take medical leave from a job, or when you're earning very little at a job already and then you're on like the medical leave from that and disability, like it's a certain percentage of what your income. So if you have like very little income to begin with and then they like almost take half of that, the amount you're earning is just so little. It's like, well, I can't keep living on this, so I have to figure out how to get some other source of income. And so at some point I had to realize like, well, maybe I don't know if I'm ever going to be able to return to that type of job that was working like 50 or 60 hours and demanded so much from me when I get tired talking. Like my face hurts still. I'm numb all through here. I don't know when I'll be able to eat like they're wanting me to with clients. I have to, and I'm getting migraines now as a result from this procedure. So it just had me needing to start thinking about like like what do I actually want to do now? Can I still work in treatment, or do I have to like kind of change the course of what I was thinking I would do? Oh,
Yeah, I
sorry.
know when you were recovering, you had migraine. You also had double vision going into that for some strange
Mm-hmm.
reason. And it was kind of like, I
Yeah.
believe what I read is that you knew kind of what was happening, but you also didn't know what was happening. You were kind of just going with the punches of everything that's happening. So, how are you right now? So, are you like, I see that you're open for business for therapy. So, it seems that you're a lot better now.
Yeah. Well, it's funny. The I feel weird saying this. Like the pandemic has really been it's a weird word. Like has actually really been a benefit in this regard because it allowed me to. So my plan was, okay, I'm gonna try a combination of a little bit of in-person private practice and some online therapy because what I can do is I can set my own hours. When I don't feel well, I can move some clients around. If I work from home, I'm not having a good day, I can ask if like a client can shift here. I can be more flexible. I can control my schedule. I can control the temperature of the room. I can let clients know we might need to do like a text based session, even though we're on Zoom, but move to like texting on the Zoom screen.
Mm-hmm.
And then the pandemic happened, and then that's even made it more conducive. I still get migraines. I still have the double vision, and I'm still really numb here. But the nice part is that so I am better than I was, and the symptoms I say like kind of like will fluctuate. I think what I've done is I've been able to really craft a life that kind of works with those. So I just before our podcast, I've been out with my dog, and I
Aspen.
am in San Francisco. Aspen, yeah. And there's days when it's really windy. A lot of days it's really windy here. So like when I go out in the morning, like I loved the masks we were wearing because it kept my face warm and protected from the wind. So like I might still wear them outside, or that plus like a big like buff or scarf, because without it, even though it's actually a nicer warm day here,
Mm-hmm.
any cold breeze makes my face, it hurts so much. And so like I don't want to be outside too much without something like that. If it's a really windy day, I won't go out without something or spend too much time outside. Like I said, I always have like a hot beverage in my sessions, because that even before the surgery, really hot beverages help with the pain when I'm talking.
Yeah.
So
You
there's
ever
things like
thought?
that you start to learn.
Yeah. You ever thought if just like taping a heating pad to your face, see if that helps?
Oh my gosh, I not taping one, but I have an electric heating pad, and then I have one of those hot bean. Not like, do you know those like wheat bags that you can microwave that
Yeah.
get really hot?
Yeah.
So I microwave those, and I rest those on there, and it's amazing.
I used to do it with rice. Rice is good if you want something smaller. Or I'll sometimes use not for pain, but like small. I use the hand warmers. That's really nice too in a pinch.
Oh, that's a good idea. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, they get a hand warmer because it lasts for like hours. The heating thing only lasts like 10 minutes. The thing lasts for like 6 hours.
That is a good. I'm gonna get that. That's a really good idea.
Yeah, I have like a 50 pack in my room. Yeah,
Yeah,
that'd be really cool for you to have. I mean, if it helps you, that would be amazing. Like you could put it
yeah.
under your mask or something, and no one would ever know.
Oh my God, that is such a good idea. I'd never thought of that. I feel like that's such a great idea. I'm seriously gonna do that later today.
Yeah, or
Cause
you
it's
can buy the heating pads, and they're like it's actually thicker, but I don't know if you actually want a sticker on your face, but it's bigger, so that might be more beneficial. But
yeah,
I I wish you the best of luck with that. You gotta let me know if it works.
I'm going to. I definitely will. No, I never thought of that. It's such a good idea.
So we talk about therapy, and now everything's online or was online during the pandemic. But do you think that's not as I mean, it's better than nothing, but do you feel that the indoor eating session is beneficial to an eating disorder just because of how much eating is involved? Like, was there a challenge involved in that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that eating with clients is still is still very beneficial, and I have been able to do some of that even like with over Zoom now, and so in my private practice. But the nice part is, right, like I match it with what I'm. So I make sure to only offer to eat with the clients in ways that I know I can match them with, right? So like if a client is going to, even like some of the first things when I was still more liquid based, like I had a client who was really afraid of smoothies, and I thought, well, that's a good one I can actually like do with her. So like we did smoothies together in session, or
No, do you actually like make it with them? Like you mentioned the smoothies. So do you actually like go to the process of like blending it? Like, do you, or is it more like they already made it beforehand and then you're drinking it together?
so this was in this circumstance. No, this person, we were over Zoom, so she had identified a place that she like used to enjoy going, kind of before the eating disorder. And I was like, well, why don't you go there? Looked it up online, and we agreed like which smoothie she was gonna get. and that she'd bring to session on Zoom over Zoom. And I told her
Oh.
I would find a place locally where I am, and I would bring one to session too. So we, like on the screen right now, it's like how you have your
Oh.
cup and I have my cup. We'd both be like, hey, like,
Oh, that's awesome. That's
um,
so cute.
yeah. So things like that. And I'm like, there's other times, like I have a client who has a really hard time just like doing breakfast. It feels like they're always busy, never has time for it. Yet our session is at 9 a.m. And I'm like, well, why don't we have like breakfast together, right? So, and we're now at a point where they have agreed that like sometimes I'm hungrier before 9 a.m. So they've said like it's okay if you eat before and you just have a snack because I know that you like we're now so far into this. It's like a year
Mm,
later.
yeah.
But in the very beginning, I asked what would be helpful, and we agreed that like having the same thing. So we both had oatmeal together always. And so it was something that like she fixed, I fixed, and we'd like lift our bowls up and show like here's your oatmeal, there's my oatmeal. And it also gives the chance for like me to say like if their oatmeal is literally like, you know, this much, I can go, we might need a little bit more.
Yeah, I kind of seemed that they kind of more wanted like a positive influence on their eating habit, and then hopefully
Yeah,
like it did like a friend kind of in a way, and then hopefully that after a while they establish their own self confidence where they don't need you anymore and they'll just continue that habit.
exactly. Since I with some
No,
clients who have like I've shared my like they know about my glossopharyngeal neuralgia and the way that it has like impacted foods because I'm not on a liquid diet anymore. I can eat solids, but there are foods that trigger the pain. And so I'll share with them. They know this and I think it's been helpful too for people in their recovery who have also started to learn that like certain things maybe because eating disorders sometimes have this we have an idea like all foods fit, right? No good or bad food, which is true. And yet also people can have allergies. People can also have certain foods that maybe they don't like, or maybe they're more in the mood for, or if they're sick, they don't feel good, or they don't agree with their body. So it's like at that stage of recovery, how can we still not be good or bad, but there can be like individual nuances. And so for
mhm.
me, like unfortunately, like any alcohol triggers major facial pain. I like sugar, but like also like too much sugar causes major facial pain where like I will not be able to talk anymore. So like I really like a really good piece of cake, but like if I if I get through the whole piece with a like a really good frosting, I am like my face is like sparks are flying.
Ah, that's just so strange though.
I know.
Do you ever have it's always revolved around food? Do you ever have like a food where someone enjoy but you just really hate? Not because it gives you pain or anything, but you just don't like the taste of it and you're just like, oh, I gotta do my job here, eat this thing. Do you ever have those situations before?
Um, I'm trying to think. So it was nice, and like when we in jobs and stuff, we were always allowed to list like our three dislikes. So if that was the case, I hate potatoes.
Wait, what? Wait, hold
I
on.
always have.
What kind of potatoes though? Are we talking like mashed or are we talking like what kind of potatoes are we talking about?
So it doesn't matter how they're cooked, but if they are like white, any kind of like the white, so like
What?
baked, scalloped, roasted, unless they're a sweet potato, but any other kind of potato,
Wait, how about French fries?
as long as they are like shoestring and basically like the least like a potato, right? If they are like steak fries, ugh, because it still tastes like a potato.
What? But so it is like
It's something.
it is
It's
with
like
the eating
texture.
disorder of you, or is it more of just like a personal taste of you?
This is so personal. This is so personal.
Well, that's
It's
so
like
that's crazy.
so my sister loves potatoes.
So you're just repulsed by how it looks.
I'm repulsed by how it tastes.
Ooh, okay. So what number two and three?
Peas, little tiny green peas,
Yeah, they're overrated. Okay, I agree
they're
with you.
way overrated, right? And what was my third one? I used to have a third one for a long time. Those are like the biggest ones, really. Because I feel like I can almost like I can make myself do anything else if I really had to. Those are like the true dislikes. Like I will leave those on the plate, like to the side. Oh, olives.
Okay, I can see olives. Yeah, I don't. The only time I ever seen them are in like a martini drink. Otherwise, who eats a olive?
People eat them. My mom like eats them out of the jar. I have clients who just like love them, and I feel like yeah, martini or pizza, right? If
Ew.
someone puts olives on a pizza, you can't pick them off because it has permeated the entire pizza. You can still taste them.
I wouldn't want to hang out with those people.
No.
Okay. I'll disagree with you with the potatoes, but I'll agree with you with the peas and olives. I also kind of feel like you wouldn't like oysters for some reason too.
Oh, actually, you're right. I've only ever had to have one once, and someone made me try. This was years ago. It's a good guess. I tried to swallow, and then I freaked out and I spit it right back out. It was the
Oh
grossest thing.
no.
It tasted like I just swallowed the ocean.
I know a lot of people that don't like it because it looks weird and stuff. So I kind of assume if you don't like potatoes, you wouldn't like that. But it's crazy. It's like, so how do you distinguish between your? So let's talk about your eating disorder. So you say you've been in therapy for 10 years. How do you divide? Like me talking to you, how do I know if it's something from your eating disorder or just something that's just a personal taste of like you don't like potatoes?
That's a good question. And you talk about like, is it like preference or is it like rigidity or
Yeah, like I
and
don't, I like I want to make fun of you, like as in joking way, but I also don't want to like be the asshole and like like bring up bad things for you either.
you're fine. You can totally make fun of me around this.
Yeah.
And how I know with the potatoes is because I have tested it time and time again. So, like, how I know is because, like I said, like I'll leave them, I'll push them aside. But honestly, like I will also, if someone says you have to take a bite, like I'm not gonna lose my shit if I take a bite. Like I will take a bite, I will eat it, but I can also very clearly say like I don't like it, and I have tried them multiple times. So like if somebody else has like prepared potatoes in a way I've never had them, or I'm always willing to give it a try, right?
Okay.
I'm like,
I mean
okay,
that's
man,
huge.
new style. I'll try it. Maybe this time. And I've been doing this now for like 10 years or 15. Like, no one has ever, like, my whole life, I've still never been able to like a potato. Like, my mom can tell stories of when I was little not liking them, like, whether it be baked, twice baked, mashed. Like, it's just never been a thing I liked. That's how. And same thing with the peas. My dad will tell stories of me at like 5 and him trying to talk about them as being little baby apples. And he's like, give her broccoli. She'll eat all the broccoli in the world, but little baby peas.
It's kind of weird because peas also go with potatoes a lot of the time.
I know, right?
So you're limiting.
Maybe something
Okay.
happened when I was young.
I mean, maybe you had some traumatic moment in your life, but you just don't remember it or something.
I mean, maybe, I'm very texture based. Like,
Yeah.
the other things I don't like are, like, I am not I hate whipped cream. Um,
Okay.
and I think it's because I hate the texture of it, but also I grew up in Australia. Everything in Australia came with whipped cream on it. Like if you ordered a hot chocolate, it always came with whipped cream. Any dessert, whipped cream. Like my whole childhood,
I
felt like I spent ordering something with no whipped cream, no whipped cream. Like I had to say it all the time.
mentioned earlier that you love cake with frosting. So are you okay with frosting?
Frosting is entirely different than whipped cream. Frosting is like dense. But so I don't like buttercream frosting because that's light and airy and very like sugary and that same texture.
Mm-hmm.
But like cream cheese frosting or like fudge, like a chocolate fudge frosting. I guess I would say I'm picky about my frosting.
It just it seems like you don't like things that have like air inside. I guess like I would say
Yeah.
think you love ice cream because that's pretty dense for the most part.
Yes.
Uh, so now I'm trying to think. So do you like cotton candy then? Feel like you wouldn't like cotton candy.
I do not like cotton candy.
So yeah, so you don't like things with like airish inside.
That's true. Actually, that's true. Like my sister likes what are those donuts that are like the French crullers? You know those ones that are like, I don't even think they are like a donut. They're like I mean they are, but I think they still have a hole in the middle. They are like a donut, but they kind of have that like ripple pattern.
I don't know what you're talking about. I like I
I don't
kind
know
of
either.
understand.
My point is that they're also really airy.
Yeah. So do you
They're kind
like?
of like once you bite in, there's nothing in them.
You can also kind of say the same with cake sometimes or muffins. Sometimes they get a little airy too.
Yeah, those are not the good ones.
We're gonna move on to the next segment here, and I need your help to fill in the blank. Get it a big part of you.
Okay.
So I'm gonna set the scene. So you're on your 22nd birthday. I have that you have spent 4 years in therapy, overcoming your eating disorder. You take your first blank.
Tiger bite.
Yes. So let's talk about your tiger bite and how big that was to you.
Oh, that was like, I would say that was like the turning point of my recovery. And I actually sort of referenced this earlier in our talk. So I was in residential treatments. I was living in a program for treatment for my eating disorder. And it was my 22nd birthday. We had gone out for sushi for a meal outing. And at this point, I'd been still really struggling to eat. I was barely completing the meals. My therapist from the outpatient program was going to come over later that day to join me for the cake that I'd made a cake. Even though I was afraid to eat it, I'd made a cake for myself for her to come. But they said she couldn't come unless I could eat the meal at the meal outing. I really wanted her to come. So we were out for sushi, and we ordered like just one of those like kind of like fancy gourmet sushi rolls.
Mm-hmm.
And the therapist I had at the outpatient program was like, "Come on, Tessa, you got to do this. You have to be able to put like a piece of sushi in your mouth." Because I was sitting there with my chopsticks. If anyone's ever had like the nice sushi, like you don't pull it apart, right? But I was trying to peel the piece off, kind of pick the
Yeah.
rice off the seaweed. Like I'm sure I looked ridiculous. Um, and so, I mean, I can't even imagine it now. I take like an hour to eat like this one piece of sushi, right? So they're like, no, you got to put the whole thing in your mouth. And I was like, I can't. And she's like, you are drawing more attention to yourself by what you're doing than putting the whole thing in your mouth. She's like, come on, you can do it, Tessa. You just gotta like open that mouth, open, like roar, like Tony the Tiger.
Yeah.
And I don't know why, but somehow that just made sense. And so I went and I grabbed my chopsticks and I went to grab the sushi and I was like, okay, I'm gonna do it. And then someone's like, okay, oh my gosh, she's gonna do it. Someone grabbed their phone. I was like, we're gonna get it on camera. And I was like, oh my God. And so as I'm doing it, they get their camera. And then like my therapist was like, I'll join you. So she grabs her sushi on her chopsticks and comes in next to me. And so there's the two of us with like our sushi just about to enter our mouth. And it was the first time I'd ever taken that big a bite. And it felt like I was not alone, but like doing it with my therapist on behalf of my other therapist coming. It was fun. It was like scary, but we were doing it like together and I had support. And I didn't know it at the time, but like do it like Tony the Tiger, like take a tiger bite. That became an ongoing theme. And from that moment on, like this tiger bite mentality of like, take a bite for the life you want, for relationships, for the future, for everything that you haven't had, became this like almost like my mantra. And from that moment on, I stopped taking these micro bites and was constantly pushing to take tiger bites, which were really just regular size bites. But my therapist joined me later for my carrot cake, and I actually had the carrot cake that I made with her, and all the way until I graduated university, like 8 years later, I finally graduated from my undergrad on my 30th birthday. And as I walked across the stage on my 30th birthday, my sister, my mom, my friends were in the audience, and I walked across the stage, and they yelled like "Tiger bites!" and I had the biggest grin, and it just became this like constant theme of, you know, doing the thing you're afraid of and what it's on behalf of. And so it still to this day is like this, tiger bites of life, tiger bites of hope, like what it's on behalf of, and pushing myself.
Yeah, so let's go back in time a little bit. So why did you like to divide your food up and eat in little bits? Like, was there any rationale to that?
Oh my god, I feel like it started so many years before that, but it was part of the eating disorder, and the belief that I really shouldn't be eating, and that everybody else believed I shouldn't be eating. And so like the small bites of food is like I was trying to make it as as less as less as less obvious, or as trying to draw the least amount of attention to me eating as I possibly could. And somewhere in the like disordered brain, the rationale for that was if like the smallest bites you could possibly take would be the least noticeable. So like if you had like a grain of rice, right? If you just could sneak a grain of rice in, from this piece of sushi every, 5 minutes, no one would notice. So if you could, cut your grapes into 18 pieces and eat 1/18th at a time, no one like that would be like no one would notice, because you really aren't even supposed to eat a grape. But if you need it right now, like this is the only way you're allowed to do it.
Person or someone or anything that was telling you not to eat, or was it more of a psychological person that's telling you that you can't eat this?
No, I mean it's the eating disorder inside. Like it's the eating disorder that comes in and shows up
Mm-hmm.
this way for me. And it isn't that way for everyone. Other people will have it show up in different ways, but this was it for me. And there's ways it shows up. Like there's lots of reasons why that message kind of got taken up that way, but that come from like, I think, like, my family and society, ideas that I remember from a really young age, kind of this idea, like kind of subtle messages from my mom, about like not being seen with food by others, and just being more embarrassed being seen around food and what food we were eating. And so like the eating disorder just kind of like took all these and kind of was using them as fuel, and it just grew and grew and grew.
Seemed to be a very it seems to be a very mental problem, and the biggest enemy really is yourself, and that's just hard to do, and almost no one can. I mean, a therapist can help you in a way, but they can only help you so far. You're the only one that can like when we were talking about the tiger bite, and in the end, you were the only one that could take the tiger bite. And,
Exactly. I mean, that's where this like the eating disorder therapy is like, yes, there's the mental health therapy, right? The talk therapy, but at a certain point with eating disorders, like you can talk and talk until you're blue in the face, but until
mm-hmm.
some action starts to happen, nothing's gonna change. So people could tell me all the time why like these beliefs weren't real and how to challenge them. But until I was actually able to take the bigger bites, nothing actually had started changing. I'd been in therapy and treatment, not only just like therapy, I'd been in treatment programs for 4 years at that point, and none of the programs had really found a way to really have me push back and challenge the small bites. So I'd been going through these programs. They had me like, you know, restore weight, then I'd leave and lose the weight, and we'd fix that part temporarily, but they'd do it through feeding tubes or higher meal plans. But nobody was addressing the actual like food behaviors. So therefore, like the thoughts and beliefs weren't being challenged. So I'd leave and I'd keep doing them. And then it was through the relationship with these staff and the way that we were able to kind of like encourage like taking these bigger bites. It was more than just, hey, you need to do this. It's like it was inviting in the like me to think about like why this piece really matters. This piece, you taking the small bites, it's causing problems, not just for you, it's causing problems relationally. It's hard to be around you. It's not fun to sit at this table. You talk about wanting to go on dates, you talk about wanting to be out in the world and sit with friends and go to movies and socialize, and you know you're uncomfortable to sit with when you're doing this. This isn't fun for other people. This is going to get in the way of relationships, all the things that you say you want. And like and for some reason I like trusted them and was like, okay, I'm going to try to challenge this and change it. And it was like by changing the behavior, my thoughts were able to start changing.
So it just seems that you're living your own reality and you need someone to come and tell you like you're crazy and you gotta like change to do
Yeah.
something. I think like in life in general, no one wants to really say anything to each other just because like they don't want hurt feelings, which I understand. But I feel like the best therapy is probably the most hard is telling someone like, no, you're crazy. Like this isn't working for you at all. Like you don't see it maybe, but like everyone else sees, and you just gotta like snap out of it. But just be like, you have to see the situation as is, and then you kind of have to just work on yourself. Like I don't have a severe mental issue that I would say for you, so it's hard for me to like actually say these things. But I like from what you're telling me that you needed someone to tell you like, hey, this isn't working for everyone. This is your problem. You got to work on it, or you're just gonna be stuck in this vicious loop.
Yeah. I mean, yes. I think I think it wouldn't have worked if they hadn't developed the relationship with me. So
Mm-hmm.
like it was like if they had done that the first week, that it wouldn't have wouldn't have had the same effect. But they had enough. We built enough relational rapport where I truly cared. I mean, I truly cared about how these people felt about me. Like I think they saw me as somebody outside of the disorder, outside of the eating disorder, and I mean, I'm still in relationship with them, even though we're
Mm-hmm.
not client therapist anymore. And it was such a special bond that like I I trusted them enough to go, okay, like I'm hearing what they're saying.
No, it makes total sense the way you put it. Yeah, just I mean, it must have felt so amazing when you took your first tiger bite. So like that's the end of your therapy journey, and then you were just go on flying now.
Oh no, definitely not the end. That was like I would say like that was almost like the start of like true recovery work. I still had I feel like things got better then. No, it was still bumpy for a while, but
I mean, that's a huge step,
I think
though. Like, you must have felt amazing,
it
and the
was a huge
therapist
step.
must have felt amazing too.
Yeah, I feel like from that point on, it wasn't like the eating disorder didn't like sneak and get me and try to get me again, but it was I think up until that point, I'd always like I've been attending therapy, saying I wanted to recover, but it felt a little bit more passive on my part. Like I'm doing the work, but I just kind of hope this works. And then at that stage, it was like, no, I get it. Like I really have to like do this. I have to work for this, and it's gonna be hard. But it's more than just showing up to groups and sessions and doing what felt like more like the academic part of the therapy and
Mhm.
work. It's like now I have to really challenge.
It just seems more complex. So, like, in your case, you had the seemed like you had kind of like a low self-esteem kind of with people. So the people had to create trust with you, and then when they created that trust with you, then they can kind of hit you with the hammer of, hey, this isn't working. This is your problem. You kind of have to like fix it yourself, and then like you like I guess a little bit takes time for you to like, okay, maybe I am in the wrong here, and then like you take the first tiger bite, and that's amazing. Like I don't know if I can compare that to anything. I guess me graduating in college or something, and then so now your self esteem is much higher. You just kind of know what you have to work with, and I think it also when you took the first tiger bite, it also was like, wow, this feels amazing. Like I want to keep working towards this goal where I can eat everything in one go. Like I feel like before you took the tiger bite and after, you probably saved like 7 hours of your time just eating per day.
I mean that part's true. It
So
also
let's
felt like I think for me the difference was up until that stage, I'd always been I was the like the client who was always like, I don't know, was seen as like broken, like not getting better. And then it felt so good to be the one who was like succeeding and doing well, and realizing also that that didn't mean that I was gonna like, I don't know, it felt good to kind of be like on this like, it felt good to be doing well. You know, I mean, I think the hard part was then at some point, as you're the client that's doing well, that gets scary because then at some point when you're having a hard time, is there space for that too? Like, so you're not on a pedestal. Like, can you struggle and still be doing well? Like one of my therapists had said, you know, the hard part for you, like Tessa, was like ever since I left, like in like residential treatment, like life was hard. Things didn't go smooth for me. You know, I had a car accident right after. I broke my back. I've had a lot of stuff. It has not been easy. And
What?
that's just a hard place
So
to be in.
it's an like you mentioned with the disease earlier with a really long name. I'm never gonna mention it again. But so
You can
it
call it
affected the
GPN.
way you. So it affected like the way you're eating. So like, did it trigger your eating disorder in a way, but like in a different way, or like a new eating disorder, I guess ish.
It's interesting. I think people were really concerned about that, and I'm relieved that it didn't. I think that was like probably the ultimate test of my recovery, and I think it's because I had been recovered enough by that point, because I mean, I lost a lot of weight, and from a medical place, I like dropped to the same place I was in the worst places of like my eating disorder, but I was advocating for myself with the doctors, like asking for feeding tubes, asking for TPN. They were denying me, which was so frustrating. I feel like, you know, regardless of what your weight is doing, if you're not eating, you should be given nutritional support. No, I mean, when I wanted to like put the weight back on afterwards, and I didn't want to be losing, so that was good. I feel like when I broke my back, and that was like in, I've forgotten the year now, I think that triggered a bit of a lapse or relapse more so. And not even immediately after the back, it was more like a year or so after, because right when I broke it, there was so much focus on like the immediate crisis and just like getting through things. But it was after the fact, realizing, oh, okay, I now live with like a deformed back and chronic pain, and the different awareness it has me always living with my body now, that I'm always feeling my body in these different ways, and having people not quite understand that triggered almost like more of a depressive episode, and changing the like feeling in my body. So that I think led to more of a, plus the financial stress that I was under, that led to a bit of a slip.
Yeah. So speaking of food that we were talking about, your food that you don't like. So I also do you not like sour cream and yogurt?
I do not like sour cream.
Oh my
I'm
god, we
I'm
can't be
okay
friends
with
anymore.
yogurt. Yogurt's okay. It's not one of my like all time favorites, but
No, I
I
know
know if
you.
you like,
Yeah, I
if
know you had a eating disorder. You had a swallowing problem. So like one of the first things they'll say, have mashed potatoes, eat yogurt, and I like that's it. And then like that must have been hell for you.
yeah. What was hard too is that like with the pain originally, it was you know, cold foods also really triggered it. So, you know, everyone wants you to go on a smoothie, right? And it's like I can't do cold. Like think about how many things are warm that like you can do. It's not that much. It's kind of hard.
I wonder if would a feeding tube be better for you, just so that you don't have to deal with your mouth as much anymore.
Well, so why they were worried about the feeding tube in the beginning was, and I get why when I consulted with someone, was that it was because it goes down, right? An NG tube goes through your nose down your throat,
Yeah.
and like the GPN affects the glossopharyngeal nerve, is the nerve that runs through your tongue. That's why I was having such a hard time swallowing. It's
Hmm.
because anytime my tongue moved, it triggers the pain. So we didn't want anything to aggravate the tongue.
Yeah, I was thinking of like a tube in terms of a Mickey tube that goes just to your stomach, not to your nose. I wonder if that would
Right,
have
that one. That's what I was asking for, and they were saying no. So
really. I feel like that would have solved so many of your problems.
tell me about it. I mean, I know. I don't know why.
I mean, I actually have the tube in my stomach because I can't swallow anything at all. So it's
Mm-hmm.
pretty convenient. I mean, it's kind of weird. I guess if you have an eating disorder and you have a tube, you can kind of cheat the system because you can just overcome your swallowing thing, if that makes sense. It's easier to pour like
I
a
mean,
formula into your stomach than to your mouth.
honestly, I think that the doctors looked at me and were like, "Oh, you're fine. You'll be able to like manage until your surgery." Like, I feel like our society that, judges people based on how they look was like, even though I looked smaller, like they were kind of going, "You look okay. I think you'll be like." I feel like I honestly felt like nobody was taking me seriously throughout this,
No,
which was very frustrating.
yeah, definitely a shame though. The tube I think might have just helped you a lot because the less you're eating, the more tired you get, and then it affects literally everything in your life. And then like eating, like when
Oh,
you're
everything.
losing weight, and then you want to eat and you can't eat, it gets really frustrating because like you want to like live, but like you can't. So I feel like that should have helped so much
Oh yeah,
just in the stress area.
yeah. It was infuriating. It was infuriating to me, my mom. Right before the surgery, like my EKG was abnormal. My everything was showing that my body was shutting down from starvation, and the fact that nobody wanted to give me any kind of support for that, I don't know why. Um,
Uh, Totally bullshit though. Come
and
on.
and my experience from an eating disorder treatment facility place is like, I do feel like doctors are just really conservative and slow to act in these areas with women, and I don't know why. Like, I feel like they just don't. I went and met with the like nutritionist at the hospital. I was gonna have the surgery. He recommended nutritional support, and the surgeon denied the request. Like,
Well, that's bullshit. So we're gonna
yeah.
go into the actual you being a therapist now because I feel like your experience has helped so much in yourself, and then now you can advocate for others. So I did want to hit
Hmm.
some facts here. Eating disorder is the highest mortality rate of all mental diseases. So I did need to know what is an anti-therapist.
Anti-therapist. That's actually a term my couple clients gave me, and I loved it. So I've claimed that now. And for me, what it is it means that like the preconceived idea people have about therapy and therapists is that I feel like I am the opposite, right? So I am, if the idea is that a therapist is a blank slate, that I am there to be a position of power and tell you what is right or wrong, that I am the expert of your experience, that I'm going to diagnose you, that I'm not any of those. I'm the opposite of that. I believe that you are the expert of your experience. I don't like diagnoses. I don't like labels. I am not a blank slate. You get to know so much about me and my life. I am an open book. Who I am on the street, if you bumped into me out with my dog and we talked, it's the same person you'd get in a therapy room, right? I don't have a different persona or hat that I put on. Who I am with my friends when I ask questions is pretty much the same person you get as a therapist. I love being curious and asking questions. I love calling out hypocrisies and challenging ideas and institutions and helping people fight for themselves and advocate and challenge ideas and institutions that are, discriminatory and not right. And so that's what I think of myself as an anti-therapist, and I hope that continues to evolve in whatever that means, right? Like right now, like Zoom sessions, but if somebody wants to meet in person and go for a walk, I'll do that. If somebody wants to meet and sit at a coffee shop for their session, like I will do that. Other people who experience facial pain or feel like they can't, or other conditions where they can't do like talk therapy, but they want therapy, I really feel like it's important to have that as an offer. So I want to do like text and email therapy, right? So we could sit on Zoom and we can text. We can also do email back and forth. I feel like, therapy has to have a different way to access people outside of this idea that it's like a couch and four walls, which has been the traditional therapy idea, which I think is bogus. My clients all have my cell phone number and they can text me outside of the session. And because I think people's problems that we're up against exist outside of a 45-minute window. Shocking, you know? That's what I
Yeah.
think of as an anti therapist.
Yeah, I mean, also if you're dealing with eating disorder, it's also much more effective. It affects more of your life versus if you were afraid of like I get birds, for example. You don't always run into a bird, so kind of it's a very
Yeah.
personal and it's intertwined with our society. Really, you go meet you out with a friend, you go out and have lunch with them. Like you don't just go out and just like sit on a bench at a park. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's very
Exactly.
food centric. I'm gonna get into a controversial opinion here, and then you can kind of give me your thoughts. So right now we're going through the fat acceptance movement, and I feel like to
Mm-hmm.
me it causing more harm to the person. My theory is that it's easier to accept that they're fat and move the goalposts instead of working on ways to be in a healthy range. What are your thoughts on it?
Say more about that. Your
So we're
theory is we're in fat acceptance. Your theory is what?
well, I'm saying that we're going through a fat acceptance period right now, and I'm thinking that people that are fat should move the goalposts that to accept that they're fat and they won't do anything about it instead of actually like working out, going on a diet to become healthier versions of themselves. And I feel like being fat is causing more harm to them and society than just versus just trying to exercise and be healthy. Like, what are your thoughts on it?
My thoughts are that the fat positive and fat acceptance movement is really great and really important, and it's super nuanced too. I think the biggest, the most crucial part about it is we're trying to help society understand that there is a difference between fat and weight, right? Those two. They don't tell you anything about health, and that our society is for so long, our culture has put these two things together, and that someone's body, like, the only thing that, like, fat, if you see a fat person, what does it tell you about them? Nothing. All it tells you is that a person is fat. It doesn't tell you anything about what they eat, it doesn't tell you anything about how much they move, it doesn't tell you anything about their lifestyle. All it tells you is that they have a certain amount of body fat. The same is true for someone who is thin. It doesn't tell you anything about what they eat, how much they move, their lifestyle, any other medical conditions, or their health. But our society, we've like falsely connected and correlated fat and fatness with health out of a fear of it. We have a long standing fear of weight and fatness. And so the fat acceptance is to just understand that throughout time and history, people have existed in a range of body sizes. It's through our desire to control what someone's body size is and the shaming and stigmatizing of them that more and more problems are being created.
I'm gonna disagree because when you're being fat, you're creating more problems for yourself. So it's like you mentioned that like you're not judging them from them being fat, but you are like they're eating more food, they're eating, they're working
We
out
don't know
less,
that.
but it
Nope, we don't
clearly
actually
show,
know that.
but it's clearly showing that because they're fat. So like they have to be, like no one just gets fat from doing absolutely nothing. You have to do something to like you get fat by eating more food. You get fat if you're eating more food and not working out as much. Like there's a small percentage of people that understand that like they take medicine and that'll get them fat and that's really hard. But like they're contributing, and then the other thing is a big contribution is the diet that's happening right now. So I don't know when they switched, but I know when we went from sugar and then we went to into corn syrup, it gets a lot cheaper for the manufacturers to make. So like we're kind of eating the same, but it's more sugary foods. So like you can eat the same amount like 50 years ago, but now you're just eating more. But I still feel that if you're fat, then you have to make it that you have to control your desires and say like we gotta do something about this. not healthy for a person at all. It's literally in the word
We so
fat.
so I want to. Fat is just fat. We all have fat on us. There's nothing about it that is suggesting that says it's not healthy. So again,
Well,
I want
yeah,
to say the only
there
thing we know about some
well, there's like diabetes, for example, that comes from fat.
diabetes appears in people. It doesn't come from fat. Diabetes comes from many things, and diabetes appears and shows up in people of all different body sizes.
Type 2 diabetes, clearly with fat.
Comes in people have it. Nope. It also you have many people with type 2 diabetes that also appears in people in smaller bodies.
I don't have any facts to disprove you, and I'll have to take your word for it right now. I just see a lot of people that do have type 2 diabetes are fat, and they would be skinnier than they would. Like if you go to a doctor and you're fat, you have a high risk of getting diabetes, and so they'll say lose weight, or if you have diabetes, you can lose
Doctors
weight, and then
doctors will tell you that. Doctors will tell you that the medical system also is fully entrenched in weight stigma. Some really good books are you could read Sabrina Strings, Fearing the Black Body. You could also look at Big Fat Lies by Glenn Gacier, The Obesity Epidemic, and there are some other really good research based books. Also, Body Respect, Health at Every Size, that have the scientific research and data that you're looking for that kind of like show how. Here's how we know if there's any ever a medical condition that they've said this is caused by being in a larger body. If it also shows up in someone in a smaller body, that's how you know it's not caused by someone in a larger body. Just because there's a correlation doesn't mean it's causation. And our fear of fatness is so great in this country, we will look for anything to link them. Many people live in larger bodies, and I know them who, and I also, it doesn't even matter that I know them, but like, so there's two parts, right? Like their diet, their exercise, like, is the same. It could even be better than somebody in a smaller body, and their body size is larger. It isn't related to that. There's so many other factors. It can be genetics, it can be age, it can be, there's so many other determining factors, stress, life factors, cortisol levels, conditions. Is there a history of chronic dieting or not? Is there experiences of shame and stigma, medical conditions? Or is it just that people have different diversity of bodies? So that's one piece, right? That people just have different bodies. The other part is there can be different bodies, and your body doesn't guarantee you like that makes you unhealthy. Lots of people in smaller bodies can also be unhealthy, but we don't want to look at that piece. We're just like what you're saying is like if someone's fat that makes them unhealthy. No, like the only thing that like a fat body tells us is that someone has a fat body, in the same way that the only thing a thin body tells us is someone has a thin body. The only thing my hair tells you is that I have curly blonde hair. It doesn't tell you anything else about it right now. It doesn't tell you what shampoo I used. It doesn't tell you how many days ago I washed it. It doesn't tell you how I'm holding it up in this clip, how long it is, when I last cut it. These are things that you'd have to ask and have a conversation about.
But it's just the thing is about eating is that it's something that you can almost control yourself. Okay, like not everyone is quote unquote really born fat. They're just fat. They become fat. Like it's literally a word, an adjective to describe being fat. Like it creates more problems in the health. It creates more problems with themselves. Like the human body not cannot. I mean, it shows out there, but it can. It just doesn't great fast. It's not something that you should do. Like look at the animal kingdom for say. Are any of the animals fat? No, they're lean and they have to be. The only animal that get fat are bears because they hibernate during the winter, but they do it on purpose. Like we're just. I feel like as a society we don't have the discipline and we don't have. It's just people are not wanting to put the effort to want to become skinnier, just in a healthier way, just in general. Like ask people that if they're fat and they lose weight, they'll say, "Well, I have so much more energy and I'm doing all these things." And a lot of the thing is that when they're fat and become skinnier, they look a lot better because that's kind of how the body should normally be. And I feel like we're just going too much that they just don't want to accept that they're fat and they just keep going. So like, I'll give an example. So like, there's the male and female aspect. Male, you're able to judge, like you can call a man fat and nothing happens. If you call a woman fat, it's like, oh, no, no, it's the end of the world. Like, like if you're dating someone, you're going to sleep on a couch or they'll break up with you. Like, that's just how it is. And then, like, if you go on dating website, they don't say, they don't have like a fat category. They'll get big and beautiful. But it's like, you're just enabling them to become this new fat acceptance. I think it's causing more harm to them than good. Like, I don't think you'll like will change each other opinion, but I know you're a therapist and it is very crucial to your field, and I would love to get your honest opinion about it. It's just maybe I'm thinking. I feel like you think I am wrong, and I do. I get it from I get the medical standpoint, but I still feel like it's an unhealthy. Like, I don't think you should be too skinny either, and I think that's really unhealthy. But you also can't be really too fat because you're needing to be in the middle. You can't just keep going fat because you can't keep getting fatter and fatter and fatter, and you want everyone to accommodate you, but you're also the problem. Like, if you see these, this 500-pound life, the first thing the doctor would say, we need you to lose 100 pounds, and then they lose that 100 pounds. Just like when they have the discipline going, they can lose the weight. So like it's just like, do people even want to change their way? They just want to keep doing their own way and just have society accept them.
So
But like,
I think there's two. I think the parts that are important to distinguish here is, fat acceptance is fundamentally what we're saying is, regardless of someone's body, everybody deserves respect, no matter what someone looks like. You deserve the same rights as somebody in a smaller body, which means you have the same rights, the same access to health care, and the same dignity and respect that anybody else does. And that isn't happening in our society. So it shouldn't matter what body you have, what size. Everybody is entitled to the same rights and respect. And that's what they're fighting for, because I'll tell you, that is not true in our society right now. We have horrible weight stigma. It's everywhere. It's pervasive. It's the last socially acceptable form of discrimination.
I also say when I say fat people, I don't mean fat people if they're like 10 or 20 pounds. That's fine. I'm talking about more of like like where you're pushing like 2 to 300 pounds and then upward. Like those really high. So like the big example right now is Lizzo, and like every time she does her acceptance, it's just not. It just I feel like she's pushing more negative than positive at this point.
I'm the same. I think I'm say the same thing. Everybody deserves respect and dignity, regardless. That's one major key point. Again, the other part I want to say is that, like, I think what's important to note is that, like, for many people, people have been raised in this society and culture, and are so you've been you've been drinking the Kool-Aid, right? Like, everyone's been told this is what's healthy, this is what's not healthy, here's what a body's supposed to look like, not look like, this is acceptable versus not acceptable, our own internalized, like, fat phobia.
You make a lot of great points, and your input is really appreciated. And so, before I take the mic away from you, is there anything you want to say, promote any words of wisdom, the winning lottery numbers? The mic is all yours.
Oh man, I wish I had lottery numbers.
I wish
No,
I
I
did
just,
too.
I know, right? No, just thank you so much for having me on here. Any words of wisdom? I can't think of any right now. I would just say I really do recommend people read the book Fearing the Black Body by Sabrina Strings. It's also on Audible, so you can listen to it. I think that's a really great one if people were interested in the fat acceptance idea and understanding more about weight stigma.
Yeah, and then anyone needs a good therapist, talk to Tessa Gordon since everything is tele whatever the word is. Like she can take clients really anywhere, I guess, right? It doesn't just apply to
Yeah,
California, right?
teletherapy. Yeah, check
Yeah,
me out. I'm at tessagordontherapy.com.
yeah,
I can do
eh,
Zoom video sessions. We can do text and email therapy. If you're interested in like some movement or yoga therapy, I can do that too.
yeah. So if
And
you
if you just
enjoy
want to like,
Tessa throughout the podcast, yeah, just hit her up. I'll have all her information in the description below. Thank you, Tessa, for giving me your time. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching, and I'll see everyone next time. Bye.